I'm Chris.
I'm Adrian.
And I'm Jimmy.
Welcome to Worldview Finder, episode 29. Adrian, welcome back.
Oh, thank you.
You were missed.
Where did you go?
To sick world.
To Sicky Land.
Doctor.
The
dollar.
The Dollar General Doctor. Is that insurance? So I feel like that is the next thing for Dollar General. There's so many all over the
I'm
place.
sure you can get flu shots there at some point.
I believe it.
For $1.
Oh, man.
$1.25 now. It's kind of outrageous, this inflation.
Back alley Dollar General flu shots. That's where we go. My kid got a shot this week. I don't know if it's a flu shot. He got whatever. He's 6.
Oh, good for him.
And then he's still this was on last Thursday, and today he's still like, my arm still hurts. But
Oh gosh.
They'll
he
take
was
it out of you.
I know he was sore. He was real sore the next day. It seemed like he was getting sick, but thankfully he didn't. So your son just turned 6.
Yeah.
You have a
did.
6-year-old.
Happy birthday.
We're hanging out yesterday, having a little birthday party.
Look at that.
Angry Birds.
I went to a baby birthday party yesterday.
You did?
Yeah.
How'd it
He's
go?
turning 2.
2.
Oh, that's our next birthday party.
Fun.
Yeah.
I was like, what? He just turned 6. But yeah,
Yeah. The next one is
your
turning 2.
Other one. Yeah. Hey, this week we're gonna talk about comedy, specifically stand-up comedy.
Not
talk
sit-down comedy like this show.
We're also gonna talk about something bad that happened in the classroom
In Florida.
in Florida.
Florida.
It's probably not what you think, because it's Florida. I stuff. You're like,
It's Florida.
of course.
You probably heard about it because it went a little bit more national than our normal ones.
Oh, then maybe okay. And then if you have time.
If we
Let's have that
Yeah, Jose-
this last
that
word.
bonus segment. Never have
Adrian's
I ever.
seen something.
Yeah. So
If we have time, she can talk about it.
you didn't listen to our Dune episode, but you said you read Dune.
I have. I read the
So
first
you would
one.
probably understand that 20 minutes of Will explaining.
So I understand slightly more now, and with the bits and pieces that I took from the episode, when I actually watched the movie over the weekend, partially
Oh.
inspired by the podcast, and I like
Completely.
Uncle Barron. I'm like, hey, look, there's Uncle Barron right there.
You knew he was bad news as soon as he
Bad
walked on the
news
scene.
Barron, I
Oh
call him.
no! Did he spoil it? Did Will spoil something?
I don't think
said
so.
He said the Baron was not a good character.
He's a bad mamma jamma.
Yeah. Well, you find out pretty soon. I mean,
Oh.
it's not.
That's true. Just
Oh, was that a spoiler? I didn't know.
spoiler alert.
I figured
Uncle
you would know,
Barron's a
because
bad
as
fella.
he talked about how horrible he was, so I figured you would kind of figure that out from the beginning.
Yeah.
You just misunderstood.
So, Jimmy,
Chris.
how was Dune? Was it like
June. So I typically don't watch movies by myself, especially. So it was my day off, and I decided to watch a movie because I was reading this book, and it was talking about the benefits of completely disconnecting from all work-related things and all.
But technically, is this work related because you watched it because of the pod?
No.
Research.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Although with all the stuff I watch now, I want to take notes
Yeah.
for the podcast, but then I feel like I can't totally enjoy it.
Oh, okay.
So I tried to kind of zone out because the whole idea of it was to just do something that was just for fun, I guess.
Yeah.
Which I don't know what that is, but
But the whole idea of this podcast is so you don't just zone out and take on all the stuff.
Sometimes you need content like that.
I wonder why you came in with dust on you.
I don't even know what that means. No, so Dune was
Isn't
Dune was
Dune
good.
about sand dunes?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So it was I think it was a good movie. I'm not super into sci-fi all the time. I don't watch movies by Malia. My wife is not into sci-fi, so we don't
Okay.
watch those kinds of movies. And the only critique I would have of it is it's called Dune Part 1, and at the end it doesn't feel like it's the end. It feels like it's like you've got half a movie and then like,
Right.
oh, for the rest of the story, come back next year. And I hate
Or
those
like
movies.
5 years later.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I'll spoil it because Into the Spider-Verse was the same way,
And I hated that too.
or Across the Spider-Verse,
One of them.
whichever one.
Oh,
Let us
yeah.
know in the comments.
But I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know it was a sequel, and you're like, oh,
Yeah, I didn't either.
It feels like you get half a movie.
because the new Mission Impossible, which I haven't watched yet, we're working up there. I watched 3 and 4. Now gotta rewatch all of them. But it's a part 1. I mean, it says part 1.
Yeah.
So you know that this isn't going to be. So I don't remember movies doing that very often. Like they'll have sequels to movies, but it doesn't. It's never like, oh, this is the first.
I feel well. we talked about this before, but Lord of the Rings was it was the first one for me to experience that because I had no idea about Lord of the Rings going into it.
You hadn't read the books?
No,
Before you
and
watched the
so
movies?
you wanted to go, so we went to see it, and I was like, I don't know what this is, and then we get to the end, and I'm like, oh, this movie is so long. I heard it was so long. We have intermission. You're like, no, it's over. I was
It's
like,
over.
what? You have to wait a year.
See, that's
Well,
terrible.
But because then that one though is a trilogy, and like, hey,
Yeah.
it's not going to tell the whole trilogy in one. How many times
I didn't know at the time, but
But
I felt really excited to go and like read all the books.
But like the Harry Potter movies, like, would you be like, oh, that's part one of
Yeah.
8?
Well,
Yeah.
they did that, yeah, towards the end. But I think you
But
can.
those are stories in themselves.
Yeah, you
like, they
can
wrap
find
up.
a good ending point
Yeah.
and then even hint to the next movie or whatever.
You didn't
But-
feel like Lord of the Rings did that? I felt like it was a complete story. I mean, you knew that like he's still going to go take the ring to Mount Doom.
Spoiler alert! I haven't seen that one.
That's the whole premise of the
That's
movie.
Yeah, that's not a spoiler.
That's the plot.
Oh, okay.
So
Plot alert.
Plot alert.
plot alert. So it's the whole. I don't know. Yeah. So
Premise of the movie.
I can't
Yeah.
believe you don't know anything about Lord of the Rings.
Sorry.
I just have to
I'll watch that the next time I'm off work.
be better.
you really should.
I'm
I'll
not gonna
report
look at you ever again.
That's
Stare.
okay.
I'm staring.
Adrian's
Do not
just
make eye
recording.
contact. I can't make eye contact with Jimmy after what he did. What did he do? He didn't watch Lord of the Rings.
Didn't watch.
He
Sorry.
doesn't even know the plot of it.
All right. Well, Jimmy, what did you do last night?
Just not watch Lord of the Rings.
You watched-
So we're recording on Monday, so this is Sunday night. You
Sunday night, it was almost past my bedtime, but me and my wife went to see John Crist live in action.
Canceled.
Crist.
Hey,
Not canceled. Not
Yeah.
canceled anymore.
Yeah, the uncanceled Crist.
the uncanceled Crist. That was
That's the name of the show.
the name of his tour.
Oh, is it?
No, it's not.
Oh, I was like, that'd be hilarious.
That'd be
What is it called?
the emotional support tour.
Emotional sport. Okay.
Okay.
So it was kind of funny though, talking about being canceled because before he came out, there was like kind of an intro video, and it was him and I think his girlfriend, but they were doing this skit where they were on their way to a John Crist show, and like they were fighting back and forth and all this kind of stuff, and then she's like, "Oh, to get ready for the show, let's watch some videos of his." And she's like, "Oh, I'll just Google him real quick." And he's like, "No, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't Google him." It's like you can just go to his social media profiles. You don't need to Google him. She's like, "Oh, I Googled him." He's like, "The things people are saying about this guy." He's like, "Not everything on Google is true. People are mean and all this stuff." So I thought it was funny.
Does he make fun of Evansville?
Yeah.
Like in the video at the beginning, were you telling me that? Or somebody's telling me like at some of his shows he'll have like an intro video, but they like have gone around the city and like done stuff to
He
make.
did not do that specifically
Okay.
in the pre-video, although he did do some kind of Evansville-centered jokes. Like he'll use,
Beginning.
yeah, or
What-
just
what
kind of.
were they? Were they accurate?
Well, so he had some kind of Evansville jokes or Indiana jokes and stuff, but I think they would also work with a million other cities
Yeah.
that are similar. So
What did he say?
Yeah, we got.
You tell us what that man said about our town.
you tell us.
Sorry, when I said what he said, it
If
came
I work
across
at for Evansville, I've got to know what people
Well,
are saying about us.
He said, well, one of the things he said, because towards the end of the show, he's like, yeah, I'll hurry up and get you guys out of here fast because I'm sure all your cars are already on center blocks by this point.
What's
get it?
that? No.
So it's like, so someone went and like stole your tires and
Right.
they're on cinder blocks.
Oh,
wait.
damn it. No.
I don't feel like that works for Evansville.
No.
I know. Well, exactly. He probably doesn't know a whole lot about Evansville, but I'm sure some cities are like, oh,
Do your
that's so
research,
funny.
John. He listens to the show.
John, if
Yeah.
you're listening right now,
Come to me next time for your content.
Yeah, You
Exactly.
should talk about. Did he make a Robert Stadium joke?
Yeah, you should have made a Robert Stadium joke.
It's like that. Too bad I couldn't do this in Robert Stadium. People would have lost
People-
their mind.
People would have. Oh my goodness.
although apparently a couple years ago he did another show at some local church here. So
Yeah, he did.
Oh, it's
he did reference that.
was that First Christian Church, Newburgh?
Sure.
I think.
No, I think it was on the north side.
I
Oh,
cannot
okay.
confirm nor deny that. But it was good. So that was my first stand-up comedy show,
Okay,
and
like a live show.
yes.
Like you watch stand up on TV.
correct.
Okay.
Or not on TV, but YouTube. So it was good to go. It was a nice experience. He had two openers with him that I think are kind of traveling with him.
Who are they?
I don't know their names.
Oh, wow.
Why?
One guy's name was Caleb. He was a young fella, a Gen Z, and then this other guy named Drew.
Were they funny?
Varying degrees of funny.
Yeah.
Caleb looked like he was still starting out, so some of his jokes were funny, and then some of his jokes didn't really land. And then it was also because of the John Crist show. Both of them, and John obviously, lean more kind of Christian comedy, so
Yeah.
it's a lot more of like Christian-centered jokes. And I don't listen to John Crist a whole lot on YouTube or anything like that, so I liked some of it. Some of it wasn't really for me.
Oh, the John Crist show itself.
Yeah.
So what wasn't for you? The
I don't know.
Christian-centered jokes, or
Some
you like
jokes.
that dirty? Just kidding. It's not true.
Oh my goodness. No, I don't know. There wasn't anyone in specific that I'm like, oh, that wasn't funny, but it wasn't necessarily like, oh, this is the funniest thing I've ever.
Sorry.
Thanks are
I'm coughing your mic instead of mine.
yeah, God, on my face.
There you go.
I went the wrong way. Sorry.
But what was interesting, so like I said, I've never been to an actual stand-up comedy show.
Yeah.
So part of what I was doing through the whole time was kind of breaking down what he was doing, and because I know a little bit about the prep that goes into like these stand-up comedy
Yeah.
shows. So just kind of thinking through the actual process of it, which kind of disconnected me from just hearing the jokes.
Oh, okay.
So I was analyzing the whole time.
So something I do like about his comedy is that he'll interact with the audience.
Yeah.
So his special on, it's on YouTube, on his YouTube channel. I forget what it's called, but
Yeah.
But it was something about what did you say it's called? The
Emotional support
It's
tour.
not called that, but whatever it's called. I watched it and it was really funny. Like
Yeah.
I actually recommended it to people because I was like, oh, this is surprisingly a lot funnier than I expect from him.
Yeah. Really?
But what's interesting with him though, because a lot of times like a Christian comedian, it doesn't have the platform that he has. Like a lot of times Christian
That's true.
comedy is more niche.
Valid.
And he does do churches, things like that. Like, and a lot of times Christian comedians just go to churches and like they'll go to big churches and it'll
Yeah.
have like a lot of people in their auditorium, but it's very specific to Christian people. And so I feel like his shows, you will get it more if you're a Christian, but there's stuff that he does that is still not like non-Christian. I mean,
I feel like there's a few of those guys now, like Dustin Nickerson. He's getting more and more popular.
wait, is he a Christian?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
and he used to be a youth pastor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's a
Oh,
part of
okay.
his content. And then you've got Trey Kennedy, who's a Christian, but his content, I don't think he really references
Not a whole
like,
lot.
yeah, not like John Crist or Dustin. And then I thought I had one more. Oh, well, Nate Bargatze.
Yeah, and yeah, but Nate's. I mean, he does mention some Christian stuff, but his isn't.
But most of his jokes aren't like.
Yeah,
But John
jokes.
Crist is like geared really more. towards,
Yeah,
like
a
he
lot-
makes fun of the church and
Yeah, a
church
lot of
people.
denomination jokes, a lot
Yeah.
of youth pastor jokes, growing up in the church jokes, all that kind of thing.
because John. I mean, I didn't really know John Crist until he made a Christian music video, like making fun of the Christian music industry,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and so like,
It's one of his most popular ones.
but you're like, do you? That's the thing. I was like, is this guy a Christian or just like used to be and like hates us? Because you could tell he had some background in
Yeah.
it because
Yeah.
he made John Mark McMillan references and stuff. And
That's kind of niche.
that,
Yeah.
that video is so funny though because it's like this Christian band. Did you guys see that? Where he,
I think I saw
Yeah.
that one.
yeah, they're like, oh, we want to be a real Christian band. He's like, oh, okay, John Mark McMillan. He's like, they're like, who? He's like, exactly, and because he's the one that wrote How He Loves. He's like, if it wouldn't have been for that sloppy wet kiss line, he would be a lot more popular. I was like,
It's true.
oh, that's a good reference. So, but yeah, but he does a lot of Chick-fil-A content.
true.
Yeah. They let him use their stores and stuff.
Yeah, he makes fun of homeschool families a lot because he was part of that. And so yeah, so there's a lot of his stuff that I relate to. That's really
Yeah.
Well,
cool.
and that's probably so. A lot of his content was kind of stories from his own life.
Yeah.
And so, being from that world, then I'm sure that's where you get a lot of your content.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
And so, but he makes like Bible name references because his like kids. Did he do that in the?
He did not do that one.
Oh, he didn't.
Oh,
Okay,
you say his kids? He doesn't have kids.
not his kids, but like his like nieces and nephews.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they all have biblical names and
yeah,
stuff.
because he's like Malachi, big prophet, stood up for God and all this stuff, and then he's like, He's like, my nephew Malachi, severe peanut allergy.
Yeah.
Just like,
He did make references to like when you are up in heaven. He was talking about since there'll be no pain and suffering, just to make conversation. You talk about how you died, and so he'll go up, and his parents always told him that you'll be able to meet all the Bible characters up in heaven. So he's like, you're going up to David, and David's like, yeah, I wrestled a lion, and then I killed him with my bare hands. And then John goes up there, he's like, I'm allergic to bread. He's like, I feel like I shouldn't be in the same section as these guys. They need to be at like a VIP section.
Yeah, and so that's some of the stuff like you don't necessarily get like if you didn't grow up in Christian culture, you don't really get that. And so, but that's why, because he was at the Old National Events Plaza, so it wasn't a church. It was like a big, and was it sold out? Was there?
No, there was actually. So the guy running sound, he said we're gonna start the show like 5 minutes late because there were still like 3 long rows of people that hadn't showed up. So they said that they sold a good amount of tickets, but I don't know if people just forgot or what it was. But it wasn't sold out.
So yeah, back in April. So would you say, as you watched it, was there a worldview that like kind of came across in that? Because I watched this special, so I've got some thoughts on it.
You got some thoughts. So the one thing that was interesting, so this was kind of a worldview, and obviously he was making a joke out of this, but he was talking about, so an interesting situation with his life. So his parents, obviously, I don't know how old he is. He's probably like mid-30s, I'm assuming. And he has younger siblings. I think his youngest sibling is in college right now. Oh. So he was talking about growing up in the 80s or whenever he grew up, and I don't know when people grew up if they're 30.
90s.
Okay, so grew up in the 90s, and he was talking about how like very Christian and very strict his parents were, and how he said God is the same today, yesterday, today, and forever. He's like, but the Christian rules have changed over the years.
Yeah.
Because he was talking about, he's like, my youngest sister, she's got a vape pen now. And he's like, I'm not saying I have a problem with that. But, and he's like, his mom, he's like, John, like, calm down. She has anxiety and stuff like that because you put CBD in it sometimes. She's like, look, she just has anxiety. He's like, wait a minute. When I was growing up, I was allowed to smoke a candy cigarette. And so he gave like 5 different references of like when he was growing up versus now, how it's changed over time. So
that's kind of, Nate does that in his
I was gonna say Nate
show as well. Yeah,
but his like the exact same family dynamics as us, so it's even funnier.
That's true.
So I don't know if that's a worldview, but because that is the thing. It's like we believe that God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. But kind of morality and what's accepted among culture does.
That's
change
really
over time.
interesting. That's an interesting observation.
Yeah, because I mean Nate's like his sister got a tattoo, but it wasn't like she's smoking.
Well, yeah, because it was
CBD.
That was one of the examples too. Because he said, because his dad was a pastor. He's like, my younger sister. He said my mom took my youngest sister to go and get a tattoo, and she's like, John, it's art, and she needs to express herself. He's like, if I was in high school and I came home with a tattoo, my dad would have amputated that part of my body with a shovel. He's like, I'm not saying I have a problem with it. It's just things have changed.
Things have changed. Yeah, and that's kind of like his. I mean, his background. If you don't know, and was it 2019? He got canceled.
Probably around there.
So I mean, it was like the week of his Netflix special. Like he had a Netflix special
that
was coming out, and it
News
never
Bears.
came out. Yeah, and I just remember like, oh, this is really cool. Like he's. I mean, this is a Christian guy that's getting notarized.
Notoriety.
He's getting notarized.
He's getting notarized. You get that
a little
stamp.
stamp and everything.
Yeah.
Notoriety.
He got notarized. No, yeah, and so he's getting notoriety, like all this stuff, and he was kind of blowing up, and then he blew up. And so he had to go to rehab, just different stuff. And it's on the Carey Nieuwhof Leadership Podcast. I started listening to a little bit of it, and I guess he wrote a book. But it sorry.
Bless you.
But it was more like just what happened and how he kind of hid a bunch of stuff in his life just because, his dad was a pastor and he grew up with 8 kids, 8 brothers and sisters, or he was one of 8, one of those.
Something like that.
But yeah, so he's like, I just learned how to hide things, because that's kind of what the Christian culture was about. And so, and not, again, I think this is stuff people put on, that not, like people in church aren't saying you need to hide this stuff, but I think like you feel like, oh, I'm a pastor's kid, I have to be a certain way.
Something about the culture is not allowing you to be transparent.
Yeah. And so, so he hid a bunch of stuff for a long time, and then it all came out, and he thought his life was over, and he went to rehab. And so, but he talks about it very openly, which is kind of cool. Like he's kind of like, here's my life now and stuff.
Yeah.
And he'll make jokes. Like in the special, he did make a joke about being canceled. He's like, yeah, it's kind of like, getting COVID. You're real scared of it at first, and then you get it, and like, it's kind of bad for a week, and then you're like, yeah. Okay, I'm okay now. So I was like, it's a little flippant on what happened to you, but I think he knows that. Like he makes jokes about it now, but and so it's interesting watching him on this side of it, and then seeing like he did talk a lot about the Christian community, how like they forgave him, and how he's able to have his career now and stuff because people offered forgiveness and stuff like that. And so it was interesting. I think there are still people out there that are mad because it was stuff with women and things like that. And so it did hurt some people along the way. But I think the fact that he owns it and kind of lives life more transparent now is interesting. And we've talked a lot about that on this podcast. Like being able to be real with people and who you really are is tough. And so, and especially being in a public eye, because he talked about the fame part of it, because he's like, I had these things hidden, but he's like, then when I got famous, it got real bad.
Oh, yeah, totally. Because, I mean, even just as a normal person, having thousands, if not millions of eyes on you, like anything you do is deeply observed and open to critique.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're like, I'm just not going to tell people these things.
So
I'm going to lead with that.
Yeah. Like, oh, here's what's going on. But he was on the Nate Land podcast 2 years ago, maybe? And like right when all this stuff kind of was, like it was done, but he was kind of branding himself or whatever, coming back. And they ripped him, and it was the funniest, man. They were like,
you say that?
Because he's talking about like doing a feminine voice, and people were like questioning his sexuality and stuff. And Nate's like, well, I guess I don't question it anymore.
Oh, gosh.
Man. Oh, shoot.
And then they would just, and he's like, I'm really glad I came on this. Yes, because they just ripped it. But I mean, in a funny way, they were all laughing about it and stuff, but it was.
Well, so what he was kind of talking about, another kind of worldview was, he said one of the reasons he does this, and even he learned through the rehab process, is what is really therapeutic for him is laughter. So he said, I want to go across the United States and bring all these cities together where people come in and they have all these problems, have all these burdens, and they feel a little bit better in the moment, and they can laugh and they can enjoy life. He's like, when you leave here, you're going to still have all those same problems.
Yeah.
But hopefully you'll feel a little bit better.
So, yeah, and that's, so I want to kind of transition to Nate Land, Nate Bargatze. I always say Bargatze because that's how Jimmy Fallon pronounced it when I first heard him. And so he was just on Jimmy Fallon's show, and he's like, Nate goes, I think you pronounced it right. We just pronounced it wrong all these years. And so thanks for correcting us.
That's funny.
But yeah, Nate Bargatze, he does stand-up, but now he's like rebranding it the Nate Land Company.
Oh. It's going
and so
worldwide.
He's now directed 3 1-hour stand-ups for some of his friends, but then they just did it's been 3 weeks now. I think every week they're releasing it. It's called the Showcase, and it's just like some of these upcoming comics that maybe you don't know about, and they do like a 10-minute set. And so each episode, one of the people from the podcast hosts, and then they'll have 3 comics come up one at a time, and then the host kind of does some stuff in between.
Yeah.
And so I watched all 3 of those, and the stand-up specials. And so, but what Nate says, he's like, I want comedy where my parents can laugh. Like that's, he's like, I just want, I want my dad to have a good, like, I want him to listen to my stuff and just laugh and have a good time. And he's like, I don't want, he's like, I'm not making content for kids, but he's like, but if your kids are like walking by and like while you're watching something, you don't have to like, pause it real quick or explain something they just heard or anything like that. And so some of the comics that he has, like there's like a little bit, they might say the H word every once in a while. There's a little bit, but he's like, he calls it TV clean. He's like, it'd be like a TV PG something. So there's but there's not anything like real, like highly sexual or highly like inappropriate.
Just moderately.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just so it's things you're like, oh, but some of them are actually really funny. And I was like, oh, this is good. Like just because I'm learning some new comics and stuff like that. But he wants to create a brand that actually like is like what you said about John Crist. Like you can forget your problems for a while because he's like I want people to come into my show and have like just the best time. And he's like so Nate's all about his show. Like that's like it's very special to him to be able to do something that like just makes people laugh and enjoy life for a little bit. And he's like, because even the venue, which is interesting, because he draws people, because like the venues will be like, you have the best audiences. It's like we love when you come to like our clubs or our town or whatever, because like the audience that comes here is like very friendly to the staff, like all this stuff. Whereas other comics, they're like,
these people are the worst.
Yeah.
I mean, and so it's interesting that like your comedy draws that personality. Like it's like because it is a worldview. Like it's like, hey, I want people to enjoy themselves and not to feel uncomfortable and stuff like that. Because there are comics out there that I love comedy, and so I'll listen to a lot of people, but some I'm just like I can't even listen. It's so dirty or so foul, and you're like, this is it's not funny. It's just uncomfortable, and people are.
I honestly hated any comedy, even.
Really?
Yeah, even like comedy movies.
Growing up with her was tough.
Chris, the funny guy, he's having a hard
that's
time.
the thing is like there wasn't any content that I felt comfortable listening to.
Oh.
And so.
Including Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but so then when I finally like, I feel like John Crist was one of the very first, and Trey Kennedy, like I found myself laughing a lot, and it wasn't for any bad reason. It was just like, this is stuff I relate to. And so like, I feel like I've just now started getting into comedy. I listened to watched my first stand-up comedy, anything, was like, I think it was Nate Bargatze's
Hello World.
Yeah. And then Dustin Nickerson's, and that, so like I've like, I can't believe who I am now, because I've actually watched a whole show of somebody, because that was just not anything I wanted to be a part of. So I'm appreciating it a little bit more now.
Yeah. So Nate has several stand-ups specials on Netflix, and then one on not Yahoo, Amazon.
Yahoo.
Does that even exist anymore?
Amazon. And then the Nate Land YouTube channels, where his like the Nate Land company, that's where they're putting all the comedy stuff. But growing up though, Mom and Dad introduced me to comedy stuff, because I had I think it's called Just Clean Fun, and it was like I don't know if they were all Christian, but it was like Christian comedy or just clean comedy, and they were like, it was more like highlights. It wasn't whole sets of things, and I didn't understand at the time. I was just like, oh, this is.
Yeah.
But some of it, I still remember. There was one. This guy, he was like talking about being a preacher and how to like the sermon that you needed to have, and he basically did like a whole Old Testament overview, and it was like some deep cuts of like Old Testament. Like that was one, like if you had no idea like the Bible and stuff, you would have not got any of the jokes. But it was hilarious, because basically it started out as Noah building the boat, but it's like, and who should come along but Shadrach, Meshach, and a billy goat, and like and just like different. It was like different Bible characters and stuff. And like Jezebel was in there, like just all these things. I was like, oh, this is really funny. But it was.
That was your introduction to comedy.
I think I'm trying to remember, because I know like Ray Stevens, like he's The Streak. Do you remember Ray Stevens? Like his was more like he would kind of tell stories but also sing, like and it was like comedy like that. And I don't remember. I just know we watched like the Pink Panther movies, like not the Steve Martin ones, those are terrible, but the the other ones, and Mad World. Like they would give us old
like comedy movies,
old comedy
funny
stuff. Yeah, but then like the stand up stuff, I just. That's what I remember, those tapes, the Good Clean Fun. It was like volume 1, 2, and 3. It was cassette tapes, had a little soap on the front. It was like Squeaky Clean Fun.
Squeaky Clean Fun back in the 80s.
And then there was Paul Aldrich, who like it was his whole set. Like that one was like a whole comedy thing. And some of it was like, I don't know if this is Christian or not, because it was really funny. But it was something like, is he allowed to say that?
Oh
but
my goodness.
But it was good. So that was my introduction. You didn't listen to any of that stuff?
No, Mom and Dad deprived me.
Well, probably because you didn't laugh.
Yeah.
Adrian doesn't know how to laugh.
Tough cookie to crack.
Yeah, but I feel like, but that's like, we don't always recommend stuff on here, but I feel like I can recommend Nateland because it is TV clean, so you can watch it and listen to some of the stuff and all that. But I feel like a lot of times because I wanted Quincy to get into comedy stuff, but I think
Quincy, I know you listen.
Yeah,
get into comedy.
But but sometimes it's hard because they like. It's not like doing funny things. It's just listening to people tell stories. And sometimes, like, I think as a kid, you don't always get the connection or like, oh, I don't understand why that's funny or whatever. So, so I don't know. Maybe.
Well, and with older comedians, it's harder to, because like you were saying, the relatable comedians are usually really funny.
Yeah.
Things you can relate to. But if you can't relate to those things, then just some old person up there talking.
Right, because their content is like kids or millennials or things like that.
All right. Well, speaking of an age gap causing trouble, it's time for Florida Foibles.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
This comes from Florida, as all Florida Foibles do. So a teacher was showing a video to their 4th grade class. I guess it was since it's
4th grade.
Since it's October, spooky season. They're like, oh, we'll watch
The Polar Express.
a movie. So they're gonna watch Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh.
The blue. That's already a sign.
Yeah.
that things are going south.
Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Blood and Honey. I've not seen this one.
The film, which follows Winnie and Piglet on a violent spree after Christopher Robin leaves for college.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the Academy of Innovative Education Charter School in Miami Springs. So, so the teacher, it was 20 to 30 minutes into the movie before they're like, kids were like, I don't want to watch this. And the teacher like, shut up. He's like all mad at him. Like
4th graders.
Yeah. And so, but apparently the kids picked the movie.
Well, that's what they get.
And they didn't know. And the movie is also
I feel like there's like a certain group of kids that were outspoken. Like, I know some kids who are allowed to watch horror movies, which blows my mind. But
yeah,
if there's like that certain group of kids, they'd be like, yeah, let's watch this. And then the teacher's like, oh, okay, you know, if some of you have seen it, then it's fine. And then the other kids are like traumatized for life.
Yeah. Well, it says that like some of them have gone to the counselor and stuff because it was scary. And so I don't know
if it's TV clean though.
It was
not TV.
It's not even rated. It's NR, not rated. So I don't know if it was just because it's an independent film, it didn't get on the ratings board or what. But yeah, but it's I remember because in 3rd grade, every Friday we watched a movie in class.
What?
I remember watching Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Whoa. Really? In 3rd grade?
3rd grade. I don't remember. But that's all I don't remember anything else. Any other movies watched. But yeah, it was either every Friday or every other Friday. So I don't know.
So my question is, do you guys have things that you feel like now looking back, either you watched too young or you shouldn't have watched it at all? Because like images, for me, imaging is a huge thing. Like it gets seared into my mind because I have like a photographic memory. So that's why I don't engage with a lot of horror or scary stuff because of that. But like, so is there anything from your childhood?
Well, that's how our 11-year-old is. Sunny will not watch scary stuff, like even the scary images, because she's like just mulls it over in her head afterward, and it's like I don't want to. And so it becomes frustrating at times. Because like, we want to watch this. And like, no, it has some scary things in it, so we can't watch it. But 7th grade, somehow our class convinced the teacher that we should watch Forrest Gump.
Oh,
this is for English because
in 7th grade,
maybe Vietnam War or something. Yeah, so 7th grade. There's a lot of not good content in Forrest Gump.
I haven't seen it.
You never seen Forrest Gump?
No.
She's seen Lord of the Rings, but not Forrest Gump.
Content.
Forrest Gump is one of those movies that's just like, this is the most ridiculous movie, but it's great. But there's bad stuff in that movie. Yeah, there's a lady playing a guitar, and all she has is a guitar.
Oh my goodness.
There's no like nudity, but it's. I mean, you know that she's just got a guitar on. Yeah. So, but there's like a lot of, like adult themes in that movie. There's sexual talk. There's bad words. There's a lot of crazy stuff in that movie. I was like, I don't know.
Everything a seventh grader needs in their life.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know how
Yeah.
we also convinced that teacher that we needed to go to the prison for a field trip for English class.
To the prison.
And we did.
Sounds
we,
like you convinced
we
your
went to the
teacher a
jail.
lot of things.
Yeah, that guy was crazy.
What? Yeah, we had a history teacher that looked like I can't remember his last name, but it's like Andy something from Shawshank Redemption. It's like
Andy Dufresne.
yeah,
Andy Dufresne.
he looked just like him, and we would tell him that every day. So one day he was fine, and he hadn't seen the movie and he didn't know. So one day we were supposed to watch this history video, and somebody brought in, like he left the classroom for a second, and somebody switched out
I'll put Shawshank
for
in.
Shawshank in. And we started the movie,
Oh
and
my
he
goodness.
just like watched the screen for a minute. And he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna watch this." And we ended
This
up
movie
watching
looks
Shaw-
much better.
Wait, what grade was that?
That was in high school.
Okay.
That's still, I don't know. So anything like early that I watched that I was like, I shouldn't have watched that.
Okay, well, my example
Yeah.
is from high school, not Shawshank, because I like that movie. But I took a film class,
Mm-hmm.
and so at the beginning of the year, I was like, for research purposes and all that kind of stuff, parental consent, you have to like, we're gonna be watching some R-rated movies,
Yeah.
but you've got to trust me, basically, as a teacher, to like, this is for film, you know.
It's art.
And I am now like, should I go back and like file a report?
Oh my
Oh
goodness.
man.
Because he showed us some crazy stuff. Like we watched American Beauty. That was one of them.
I
Okay.
know what that is.
Is
It's about a teacher having an inappropriate relationship with a student, right? I mean, I'm sure there's
a
more
dad.
to it than
A dad, like his daughter goes to the high school and her friend.
that. Oh.
So it's like about a dad and her friend. It's very, very uncomfortable. And there's, oh man, there's like a movie called Pi, not Life of Pi, but Pi. Where this guy literally, like he's like got this condition, and he drills into his head, like in his bathroom, because he wants to like get some part of his brain better or something, and so he convinces himself that he can do it,
Oh
and
goodness.
it's just like shows it.
Jeez.
Like these things are seared into my
Like-
mind. Yeah, we watched some pretty bad stuff, and I just was like, "Oh, I'm being a wimp." Like all these other kids, all these other kids are like nerdy film dudes who are like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is art," and I'm
This
over
is
there like,
art.
I can't handle this. But I still like see those scenes in my brain. I'm like, I think they affected me for sure. Like,
Yeah.
especially being in high school and being like a high school girl and experiencing like my friend's dad, like just
Yeah.
having those thoughts. I feel like that affected just, I don't know, just weird parts of my brain and being really skeptical of people.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's a weird film class.
Yeah. I don't know. It was weird.
See, I still don't really watch any scary stuff, and then I definitely didn't when I was younger. Like most of the stuff I watch now is like Disney movies and like these animated
Now
films.
that's inappropriate.
Ah, exactly. No, so I watched a lot of SpongeBob in the past. So I don't think there's anything specific like I was scarred for life by watching that I can
You're
think
like,
of.
"Oh, I shouldn't have watched that. I walked out. So on one Halloween, we were watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
Oh, good.
Oh.
and so
Good one.
I mean we got in a little ways, and I was like, I can't watch this anymore. So I went and played X-Men on the Sega in the other room. I was like, I'm not watching this. And then what was it? There's another one like this was like I was a grown man, and some of my friends were all watching. I don't even know what the name of the movie was, but it was like some gross out horror movie, and I just remember watching like
Ugh.
this scene. I was like, I can't. I'm not even gonna describe it. It was like I was like, whoa, I can't. I had to walk away. I was like about to gag. I was like, this is
Jeez.
so gross. I'm like, ugh, I
Yeah.
can't.
Art.
Yeah, this is art. They showed it in your class.
Yeah, probably.
But I got like 5 minutes and I'm like, I can't do this. And but it was like, it was made to be over the top. Like it wasn't a serious horror movie. It's kind of a comedy horror.
But yeah, you
thing.
wanted me to watch what those.
Great.
No, the gross out, like over the top. What? Not Shaun of the Dead, but it was something similar. It was like British, and Oh man, it was like these two cops. Oh man, I can't think of it. It's
Hot
like
Fuzz?
Hot Fuzz. Yeah.
Wait, that's not. I mean, there's a little bit of gore in it, but it's not.
People's heads get like smashed and gore goes
Yeah,
flying
just-
everywhere.
Just once.
No. Oh my word.
Okay, I can't defend that, but we're not recommending this.
Yeah.
Even though I told Adrian to watch it. It was
Comedy.
It was
gore.
again the comedy stuff. Like I like comedies,
I know.
and so it's hard to find, especially now. Comedy movies are the worst now.
Yeah,
like
they really are.
because there's nothing that's like clean that you can watch and be like, oh, this is funny. Like there's always some kind of like underlying weirdness to it, and that's what's hard because comedies a lot of times the worldview is just like, oh, we're just having a good time or whatever. But there's still stuff in there that's like, oh, this isn't appropriate or this isn't good for me to watch or even fill my mind with. And so it's hard to find good comedies that you can watch with my family and stuff like that. And yeah, most of it's like some Disney stuff, but I don't even know if they're comedies. It's just like
That's true.
like
They're just
Just
fun
adding
movies.
humor into it.
I mean, think of the last good comedy movie that you watched. Nacho Libre. I can't.
Nacho Libre. Yeah, what happened to all those? Those awkward comedies like
Yeah,
Napoleon Dynamite and Nacho Libre.
Gentlemen Broncos. I never saw that one.
That was not good. I mean,
Yeah.
it has some good lines that I still quote, but it wasn't that great.
But I mean, even like comedies on TV now, like they're all just like either have an agenda or they're just dirty, and it's like
Right.
I can't watch these with my kids. Like
Yeah.
it's not anything that. And so I'm trying to think of. Well, we've been watching Scooby Doo for entertainment purposes. So hey, mom's calling.
Called me too.
Oh,
I tell her every Monday, Mom, we're recording our podcast.
we need to wrap this up. Talk to our mom. But yeah, so I should have answered. Hey, you're on the air.
You're on the air right now.
Caller, go ahead.
That would be hilarious.
So yeah, but trying to find like comedies I can watch with my kids or things like that.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to do that. And so, but yeah, we go back though and watch. So we're watching like Scooby Doo, the old school Scooby Doo. It's on Max. So if you're looking for fun things to watch with your kids, check out some Scooby Doo. But I
right.
didn't realize how much Scooby Doo there is out there. There's a lot.
There's a lot.
So
Yeah,
much.
so many seasons.
But they still make. I mean, they're still making Scooby Doos. They're not the same voice cast. Okay, what do you say? We wrap it up.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, well, you were about to say something, and then I interrupted.
No.
She doesn't want to talk about it now. You ruined the moment.
Okay, all right.
No.
Well, we will wrap it up. You did watch Never Have I Ever, but we'll
We can talk about that. But that is a comedy that is got good content, but also bad content. So I wouldn't recommend it. But I think we should talk about it next time.
Okay, we'll talk about it next time. Hey, everybody. I'm Chris.
I'm Adrian.
And I'm Jimmy. I almost forgot my line.
Almost forgot your name.
Your name.
Stay funny. We'll see you next time.